Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Unity in the Seven Hills. Thank you for those folks being here in person and to you out online. We're going to start with a few songs. This first one I wrote, is called We Are Unity, and it has within it all the 12 powers except one. And organization is the one power that put the whole song together. So I'm going to forgive myself for that. So let's stand and sing about the 12 powers. 1, 2, ready, go. We will stand here together in this moment right now as we move on our way through this moment of power. In a circle of friends with the power of choice, we lift each other up with one united voice. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. Unity. We see in each other unlimited strength. Have faith in the wisdom that love can set us free. Release all the things that we no longer need. We imagine a life full of passion and zeal. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. We will stand here together in this moment right now as we move on our way through this moment of power. In our circle of friends, knowing the power of choice, we lift each other up with one united voice. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. You and me. Chorus one more time. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. You and me, we are unity. Unity, unity. One more time. Unity. So, moving on. Still Karen Drucker. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. Joy, joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. And I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Peace, peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. Back to God. God is my God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. One more time. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. Thanks to Matt up here on the
Thank you, thank you. And good morning, Unity in the Seven Hills, and happy Father's Day. Why don't we start out by blessing the Unity candle with that great affirmation. There's only one power and one presence in the universe and in our lives. God, the good, omnipotent. When that can come alive and be more than just mumble words, then we have a new power to face whatever the crisis du jour happens to be. I was so struck this Father's Day, a story by Laura Carney, who lives in Montclair, New Jersey. And a few years ago, Laura's father, close to Father's Day, tragically died in an auto accident. And they found, actually it was her brother who found it, her father had a list, a bucket list of things he wanted to accomplish. Roughly around 60 items were on it. And some of them had been crossed off, some of them had not been crossed off. And Laura got this, she said, crazy idea. I mean, some of the things was to go skydiving, et cetera, et cetera. And she said, I'm gonna finish my father's to-do list. And so she took that on to do. Some of the things were really, I mean, one was to speak to a current or former president. She went down to Plains, Georgia, because she heard that in those days, Jimmy Carter was still teaching Sunday school. So she went to the Sunday school class, met Jimmy Carter, and actually Rosalind was there. So it was, and met them. There were other things which her father wanted to do, but the key one, which really struck me, was her father wanted to be a writer and never really accomplished that. And she said, I too want to do this, and I'm going to do. She wrote a book around fulfilling her father's wish list and her bucket list, and she actually got a book and a very good publisher to publish it. And the book is called My Father's List. And so by fulfilling that, she became a writer, which was, and is well onto a wonderful career as a writer. And just thinking of this, and it struck me of, the father figures, the nurturers and our mentors in our lives. Thinking of that, and thinking of maybe their bucket list, and feeling we have the opportunity to continue that. And as we do that, we get to know that mentor even deeper, even if they've passed on. And we also can fulfill, ironically, our inner bucket list, as it turned out with her as a writer. And one of the things which she found, which was so central, was prayer, which so aligns with the Unity movement. I remember at Unity Institute and Seminary, I was to give a message or a sermon, and I did it at the Fillmore Chapel. And there was this person who walked up to me at the end, and this person knew Charles Fillmore. I mean, knew Charles Fillmore. He looked at me and said, "Well, youngster, that was a pretty good message you gave, but you made one mistake." And I thought, "Oh my God, what was the mistake?" He said, "Well, you said that Unity started out as an educational movement, education was important, but that's not the center. The center of the unity movement was always prayer. It started out as a prayer movement, and that made a big impression on me. Prayer really is at the heart and center of the unity movement. And we are so blessed at Unity in the Seven Hills to have a system, a group of prayer chaplains, which I really feel follow through on what is heart and center of unity. And we'd like to honor them because we have a new series of prayer chaplains coming in. If Sally could come forward, and also we have we want to honor our prayer chaplains. And so first, Sally is going to talk a little bit about the prayer chaplains, and then let's, as a congregation, honor and welcome our prayer chaplains who play such an important role in our congregation.
Thank you, Reverend Rick.
It should be on.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes, you can. Thank you, Reverend Rick. Our prior group of prayer chaplains have been very committed in praying and asking Spirit to stir within members of our congregation. The sacred service of being a prayer chaplain. So when we had the Sunday in March where we signed up, people volunteered to be on our prayer chaplain team. We had lots of volunteers, and I was so excited. And some of them said, I just want to pray about it, and I'm not really sure. But by the time I was able to contact them and get things going, they were sure. They were all in. They were committed. And so we just trained a little over a week ago on a Thursday, and I was so impressed that every one of the prayer chaplains were all in. None of them expressed any fear of taking on and praying with others or praying before the church. And almost all prayer chaplains experienced that at the beginning. And I was like, what? And they melded together in joy and compassion with each other. And I could just see that we have got a great group of prayer chaplains. So thanks to the prior prayer chaplains for holding up. Our purpose is to hold up unity in the Seven Hills, to pray for our church, to pray that Spirit lead our church to the highest good, the highest that we can be. And then for the congregants, for those who are on our membership, they get a monthly wellness call just to be with a person who focuses on their needs alone and to lift them up in prayer. And then they're always available for urgencies. So now if our new prayer chaplains would come forward, please. Just sort of meander over this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here we are to award the certificates of training to our new prayer chaplains.
Thank you. Donna. Did you get it?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Donna. Christy.
Elizabeth.
There we go.
Thank you.
And thank you, Miss Sally.
And old. We're old, so these.
Let's say that wonderful prayer. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. And we truly do, and we are so thankful for our prayer chaplains. They are here for you. I remember when I was at Unity in the Seven Hills, Unity of Roanoke Valley, and I was going through a difficult situation. Getting a call from a prayer chaplain and talking and praying about it really meant so much to me. And so this is a wonderful resource for you to use.
So We have a tradition here at Unity in the Seven Hills. What's that? Okay. We have a tradition here in at Unity in the Seven Hills that we sing this song. And normally it's the prayer chaplains who sing it by themselves, but I think you guys can help them today. Is that you guys okay to help out here? So, shall we stand? Let's stand and sing. 2, ready, and I, the Lord of land and sea, I will let my people be free to join in harmony, their world to mend. I who make the stars so bright, guide my people through the night, and to share my light with them, whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord, it is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of sky above, I will send my peace and love as my people learn to see the Christ in all. When my people hear my call, then my peace will live in all. Who will share my love with them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of rain and snow, I will let my people know that my peace is meant to all to share within. And my word of peace shall live as they learn how to forgive. Who will speak my word to them? Whom shall I send? One more time, everybody. Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do mean that. I mean, there are I mean, our prayer chaplains, there's also Silent Unity, that great 24/7 beacon of prayer. Use it. Use it. It is there for you, and it is a powerful, powerful resource. Interestingly, it's synchronicity. We every week talk about one of the basic Unity principles, and we're on to the fourth one, which is about prayer and meditation. I know there's sometimes you can't get Wi-Fi or the radio reception or TV reception is not the greatest. The thing is, with prayer, you don't need Wi-Fi, you don't need any highfalutin, Xfinity or Glow Fiber or anything else like that. You have all that it takes to make that connection, that uplink and that downlink with the divine. So let's say that unity principle. Prayer and meditation keep us with the one great power in the universe, and it truly does, and it does recenter us. We are so fortunate to have such a wonderful youth and family ministries program. Crystal is doing such a great job with it. Thank you. Why don't we bless our kids?
So let's stand and bless our youth together. You are a perfect child of God. God, and I love you just the way you are and wherever you are. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, everybody. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. One more time, let's let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Please be seated. Let's affirm our mission statement together. Unity in the Seven Hills is a vibrant, inclusive community that inspires individual spiritual growth through education, prayer, heart connection, and sacred service. And our vision statement, we are an inclusive community centered in spirit. We embrace our divine oneness, power, and purpose. Guys, we have, and fathers to be, you don't have to be a father right now, but all guys, we have gifts for you today at Father's Day and potential Father's Day right back there. Please see Bob and Jim about that if you haven't already taken it. And I've asked Matt to come on up and read the daily word. Matt, some of you might say, where's the brood? Father, where's your brood? They were, I'm told, up for half the night, so they are worshiping at home, as it were. So let me thank you, Matt.
Hello? Okay. They don't usually give drummers a microphone, so but the band had to take a smoke break, and they're going to let Ringo sing one. So today, I bless and give heartfelt thanks to my father and the men who were fatherly figures to me. Their protecting presence, wise guidance, and caring instruction have helped make me the person I am today. I bless my father and those who shared a father's love and care with prayers of appreciation for my memories throughout all the seasons of my life. Through good times and bad, I see God expressing through my father and the men who have shown me fatherly love. I bless them with prayers of gratitude, affirming they know the love and care of God as they have shown it so generously and faithfully to me. And fathers, should I read the part?
Sure.
Okay. And fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord.
And that's from Ephesians. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. And when I point out that it was, Ringo with the Beatles and Charlie Watts with the Rolling Stones, probably some of the most competent musicians and holding, in many ways holding the group together. We are in Pride month, and we've been having wonderful readings on that. And so let me have Ari come up. There we go. For today's reading.
I said don't forget Phil Collins.
Yep, don't, yeah, yep.
Okay, so because it is Pride Month, I would like to say Happy Parents' Day to all the gender nonconforming and non-binary parents out there who don't really fit into mother or father very easily.
Take a gift.
Also, Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth to anyone who participates. We were out yesterday. I just got the setup. I didn't get to stay too long, but there was a lot of cool stuff out there. Okay, today's Pride Month reading comes from Alok. To tell you who that is, here's an excerpt from their website. Alok, who goes by they, them, is an internationally acclaimed author, poet, comedian, and public speaker. As a mixed media artist, their work explores themes of trauma, belonging, and the human condition. They are the author of Femme in Public, Beyond the Gender Binary, and Your Wound, My Garden, and the creator of Degender Fashion, an initiative to degender fashion, well named, and beauty industries. In recognition of their work, they have been honored as the inaugural LGBTQ scholar in residence at the University of Pennsylvania and awarded a GLAAD Media Award and Stonewall Foundation Visionary Award. The following is a social media post they made for New Year's. I really love their social media posts. They come up with these lists that are just beautiful, uplifting, profound, and altering. So, New Year's resolutions. Number 1, ambition beyond recognition. Defy easily consumable narratives, be gnarly and ruthlessly indigestible. Number 2, boundaries are not borders. Protect your energy from those who live for you, but would never die for you. Number 3, perfection is loneliness. Purity is not the goal. It never was. Number 4, conformity is not community. Be yourself even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Number 5, your greatest gifts are your biggest flaws, and your biggest flaws are your greatest gifts. This is a contradiction. So are you. Number 6, be as fluent in the language of injury as complicity. Embrace simultaneity in everyone and everything. Number 7, there are as many ways to be as there are people in this world. Infinity is not chaos, it just is. Number 8, remove everything in your path that keeps you from making art, whatever your art may be. Number 9, forgive but do not forget. Empathize but do not enable. Care but do not mistake fixing other people as fixing yourself. Number 10, don't confuse the way you have come to live with the only way to live. Remain open to the universe, inviting you to shift. And number 11, the final one, run into the flames. Never forget, we have been taught to fear the very things that have the potential to set us free.
Thank you, Ari. And I'd like us, for just a moment, to say a special prayer. There has been a shooting in Illinois surrounding a Juneteenth event. Dear Spirit, we know that we are one with the one. And we know that the path oftentimes seems like 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we know in the long run we are connected with the upward, successful spiral of spirit. And we see that world coming, where hate is not a part of it, greed is not a part of it, self-centeredness is not a part of it, where people can move beyond fear and the ego. Help us to remain centered on that vision and that progress. And for this and so much more, we say thank you and amen and amen. And now we have some very special music.
So, in the past, I've sung songs that my Mum has sung to me, or I've sung songs that, and songs that meant something special on Mother's Day, but I've never done anything on Father's Day. So my father, Dad, has a lovely voice, but he's not good with words. So he sings the same words over and over and over again. I was kind of the same way in some ways, but so this is a song that I just wanted to finish for my dad, because I heard Que Sera Sera a lot, but nothing else. When I was just a little boy, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be handsome? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart, what lies ahead? Will we have rainbows day after day? Here's what my sweetheart said. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Now I have children of my own. They ask their father, what will they be? Will they be pretty? Will they be rich? I tell them tenderly, Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera. Cheers, Dad. Love you.
Wow, thank you, Daniel. Let me start off by telling you a true story. My daughter, Robin, is working as a camp counselor this summer, and she has the 7-year-olds. And so a 7-year-old camper came up to her this week and said to her, Robin, I got to talk to you. I got to tell you something. And Robin said, sure. She said, but you can't tell anybody this. And then, you know, how do you explain to a 7-year-old what a mandated reporter is? And it's I had to explain to her. So the little girl said, okay, I'll tell you anyway. My father's a minister. And a lot of his sermons are really boring. Now, I didn't have the guts to ask Robin, how did you respond? What did you say back? So, today we're going to be talking about, remember Mother's Day, we talked about Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity Movement, as the mother of the Unity Movement, because I think a lot of times there's a lot of power in both Myrtle Fillmore's story and Charles Fillmore's story, and a lot of times I find even people who've been around here for a while, don't know a lot of it, and there's a lot of power to it. So anyway, each week I have a either online or phone session with my homiletics professor, Professor Bruce Woodruff. He was my professor at Unity Institute and Seminary. Homiletics is preaching, so he was my preacher teacher. And so what he does, he looks at the video of what I did last Sunday. And I got to tell you, I am so proud that the video he is seeing is of Unity of the Seven Hills. They really are of good, I mean, really, really good quality. I mean, we're right, I think right up there, and I congratulate everybody who has a part in making that a reality. But he listens to what I did last Sunday, then he beats me up, and then we go to what I'm going to give the next Sunday, and he beats me up again. And so anyway, I gave the talk which I was going to give on Charles Fillmore, and he said, come to the end, he said, Rick, I really enjoyed that. I learned things about Charles Fillmore I didn't know before, but you went 40 minutes. He said, don't you remember what Mark Twain said? Nobody was ever saved by a sermon which went over 20 minutes. And then he said, do you remember, I have also said to you, the movie is only as good as what's left on the cutting room floor. So I'm, all right, I'll edit it down. I'll get rid of, so the biography shortened on the biography. And then I got this idea, because I was going to talk about the 10 most important points Charles Fillmore. I thought, what if I just center on one and really could go into depth on one? So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so starting out with Charles Fillmore, to give the biography. When Charles Fillmore was born, he was a baby. No. Seriously, Charles was born in 1854, so well before the Civil War. He was born in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and which is northwest of Minneapolis. 1854, this was still fur trapping country. I mean, and fur trade and all that. One-room schoolhouse, everything else like that. Well, even as a youngster, Charles was interested, he's interested in science and spirituality. I mean, and I am so grateful that, for a movement where, science and spirituality, and they're not seen as necessarily at war with each other, and that they can reinforce each other and all that. But quite frankly, if you really were interested in what Charles was most interested in, it was becoming rich, and becoming rich quickly. And so he felt probably the best way he can accomplish this is through mining, the mining industry, and also real estate. So he heads west, and he wound up in Denison, Texas, where he met a woman by the first name of Myrtle, and started courting. They fell in love and got married, and the next thing you know, Myrtle was living, in those days it really was the Wild West. I mean, on mining ventures and real estate in the Wild West, et cetera, et cetera. They had several children, and they felt, well, maybe a little less Wild West. Let's go to Kansas City, which was, everything's up to date in Kansas City, gone about as far as they can go. Well, Chicago was a toddling town, but I mean, Kansas City was starting to boom. Charles did very well in terms of real estate, although a lot of times it was a rocky road up and down, but did very well there. Things seemed to be going along pretty nicely, but remember, Myrtle had tuberculosis. And in those days, I mean, what cancer is to our society, tuberculosis was to them back in the 1800s, because most people didn't live long enough to, for cancer to be a problem. Something else got you before, cancer came along. So, but the doctors finally tell Myrtle, there's no more that medical science can do for you. And you're probably going to die, and die fairly soon. With that great news on her head, they went to a lecture, because Myrtle was also very interested in spiritual things. They go to a lecture given by a guy named W.E.B. Weeks, who was part of this, New Thought movement and all that. And Myrtle hears in the course of the lecture, "You are a child of God, and therefore do not inherit sickness." And when I say it, I add something else. I say, "You are a child of God, and therefore do not inherit sickness or fear." And something clicked with Myrtle. I mean, it came alive. It came alive. It's like you hear something 1,001 times, and all of a sudden, it really comes alive. And Myrtle felt, this is true for me. And her spiritual healing was instantaneous. Now, it's interesting. Charles was at the same lecture. We have no evidence that this lecture made any influence on Charles. It went in one ear and right out the other. Myrtle, it took almost 3 years of rigorous prayer work and et cetera, but eventually the tuberculosis left, not to come back. Myrtle made her transition in 1931. It had absolutely nothing to do with tuberculosis. So Myrtle, and again, when you see a change like that, you don't have to proselytize. I mean, people come to you. I mean, you were so sickly and everything, and now you're full of health. How did you do it? And Myrtle brings people into her parlor. She starts talking to them. She starts getting letters and writing. This is the start of Silent Unity. She starts writing about these prayer principles and all that. And Charles sees these people traipsing into his house, and many of them are getting better. Now, Charles, a hard man of business and science, finally said, and these were his words, "I'm going directly to headquarters. I'm going directly to headquarters to see if there's anything to this." And he started developing a discipline of prayer and meditation, like what we were talking about. He called it going into the silence, and Myrtle did too. And it's interesting, their granddaughter thought, well, going into the silence is just what grandparents do. Grandparents just go into the silence. And then she found other grandparents and found that that's not what all grandparents do. That this was, not universally done by grandparents. And Charles was absolutely amazed because he felt, my God, there really is something to this. There really is a beyond this material world. There really is a higher realm. There really is a higher realm of thought beyond our egos. And he was bowled over by that. And Myrtle and Charles then wrote and signed a covenant where they never claimed new revelation. They claimed what they felt they were experiencing. So this is how the Grand Masters did. This is how Jesus did it. This is how the Grand Masters accomplished so much of what they. And my God, it wasn't, the age of miracles is dead. We can do that. We can do this too. I mean, these principles work, and start applying that. And so they started. Their thought was to become a prayer and education ministry, and they started printing Modern Thought in 1889, which turned into Unity magazine. But there is an interesting story, and I'm not cutting this story and putting it on the cutting room floor because I think it's a powerful story with a real good message. So a lot of times Charles, in the early days, very early days, he referred to what he referred to it as Christian Science. Again, wanted to link up spirituality and scientific principles, and he was always big on, forget what I think, try this. Does it work in your life? Does it work in your, experiment with this. And one of the things which I so love about Unity, we don't say, check your brains at the door, I mean, we do have name tags at the door, but I mean, we don't say check your. Does this work for you? Try it. And I think what you'll find a lot of times is that this stuff honestly, truly does work. So anyway, a lot of times he was referring to this movement as Christian Science. He gets a letter from Mary Baker Eddy. Now, the founder of Christian Science. Now, Mary Baker Eddy, I'm going to try to put this as nicely as possible. She could be quite authoritarian. I mean, really very strongly authoritarian. She sends Charles a letter saying, you are using the term Christian Science. If you continue to use it, I am going to sue you for every bloody nickel you have. You stop using Christian Science, or blah, 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 blah. And Charles said, all right, I'll stop using Christian, I won't use the term. Now, sometimes when things happen to us, we start thinking, oh my God, this is a roadblock. This is the end, or something bad happens in our life. This is what a tragedy or whatever. So anyway, can't use Christian Science. So anyway, a group of people are over at the Fillmore's house. There's a fire crackling. Charles is sitting next to the fireplace. And all of a sudden he looks up and he says, unity. Unity. People look at him like he's crazy. Unity what? Just unity. What do you mean unity? He says, that's what this is all about. Unity. That's what our movement's about. Unity. Unifying spiritual beliefs with science, with the other, great truths that have been discovered by so many different religions and spiritual paths. That's what we're about, unity. And that became our term, our name. And I'll stick my 2 cents in. Isn't that term unity so much better than, as it were, Christian Science? I mean, and so what I would say, it's such a demonstration of what the Apostle Paul wrote into the Romans. The Apostle Paul said, all things work together for good for those who know and love God. Look at that tragedy. Look at that challenge that's going through your life. Look at it as perhaps not so much a challenge, but as an opportunity. As an opportunity. When in Joseph in Egypt, the brothers, it's starvation time, and so the Israelites come down to Egypt, and they walk into the chamber, the great chamber in Egypt, and who do they see up front as the prime minister? They see their brother Joseph, who they sold into slavery. Oh my God, our goose is cooked. This is the end of the road. And Joseph looks at them and says, no, first of all, I forgive you. Secondly, you meant it for evil, but God used it for good. God used it for good. All things do work together for good for those who know and love God. I hate to sound like a typical infomercial, but I mean, and I'll cut those for the 40 minutes. Ask me about it. If you like the lemonade, ask me about. Seriously, I'd be glad to tell you how examples from my life where this has honestly, truly, what at first seemed like, oh my God, such a tragedy, that there was an incredible blessing. There was an incredible blessing there. And Charles honestly, truly did discover it. The other thing, which, again, from his story, which I so love, so many founders of a movement, their egos would have been really involved in it. And, for example, in Unity, the central text in Unity for so many years, and still a wonderful book, by Dr. Emily Cady, Lessons in Truth. Many of you have read it. But in a lot of other movements that would have been said, oh no, the central text has to be written by the co-founders of the movement, and we're not publishing your stuff and or whatever. The Fillmores read that and said, this is great, let's publish it. And they published it and it became a central text. The Fillmores did not copyright their work. They wanted it to get out to as many people as possible. The other thing which I so admire about Charles and Myrtle, but Charles was really one of the leaders in this, was the concept of love offerings. The concept of love offerings. It wasn't you have to pay mega buckos to take their courses or anything else like that. Come, we trust that where people are spiritually fed, they'll want to. It's not because they're driven into it or shamed into it. They'll want to. They'll want to support that. And so I feel very strongly. I mean, if it's dealing with spirituality and they're after your checkbook or credit card or whatever, my advice is hold on to the checkbook or credit card. I can't believe somebody like Jesus or Buddha operating on anything else but that love offering basis. And knowing that when you really touch and feed people spiritually, it will just it will just flow. And the Fillmores, they honestly, truly, and one of the things I remember coming in here thinking, well, sure, you can believe in the love offering. When you're a zillionaire like Charles Fillmore, you can believe in the love, money doesn't count. You can believe in the love offering basis but they believed in that when times were rough. And it wasn't always, milk and honey. One of my favorite Myrtle Fillmore stories is, Unity Village, that great spiritual oasis. And if you've not been, I hope you get a chance someday to go. It's a beautiful spiritual oasis. And so it's, the Great Depression, they just built the first tower. There's a water tower, but it's built, it looks more like a beautiful tower from the Italian Renaissance. And that was just built. And it's the Great Depression, and a guy walks up to Myrtle and says, oh my, he was on the board, and he says, God, I just hope we don't run out of money. And Myrtle said, oh, I'm not concerned about money. I just hope we don't run out of faith. That's my concern, that we don't run out of faith. And they didn't, and Unity Village, as they say, the rest is history. Well, it was Charles and Myrtle Fillmore's vision of building Unity Village. They were very active writing and speaking. The story which I love, and I'm not sure whether Robin's going to remember this one, but Charles was one of the first to get involved with radio and using radio if Charles were alive today, he would have been all over the internet and social media and later forms of communication. They bought one of the most powerful, and again, all radio was AM in those days, one of the most powerful AM radio stations in the country. And the story is that, in those days it was vacuum tubes and it was very hot and all that. Charles would go in and preach, and after a while it was so hot he'd take off his jacket, then he'd take off this and that. He was down to his underwear. And there were, and I told, when you were little, I told you, I said, because I was showing pictures of, and Robin said to me, are you going to show a picture of Charles Fillmore in his underwear? And, no, and I didn't, but he would, because it got really hot in the studio. And there's a very interesting thing. Remember, AM radio bounces off the ionosphere. AM radio bounces off the ionosphere. So there are several places, where the signal bounced off and where it landed in Africa. There are several very large Unity communities in Africa. And a lot of it's because this is where the AM signal bounced down. You go to a Unity convention and you'll see a lot of folks from Africa in really beautiful, they're wearing clothing which makes Armand's clothing look conservative, and brightly colored and all that. But they were really, really, truly onto radio. There's so many things from the Metaphysical Dictionary that Charles did, Revealing Words, so many books. Let me just take one book. His last book, Charles died in 1948, was The Atom-Smashing Power of Mind. A wonderful book. The guy born in 1854, it's 1948, atomic energy, and he's keeping up with this. And Charles is writing and saying, as powerful as nuclear energy is, there's something which is even more powerful. That's your brain, and that's your thought inside your head, and what you're thinking so matters. I love it. One quote of Charles, which he said when he was in his 90s, I fairly sizzle with zeal and energy and enthusiasm, eager to do what is mine to do today. I spring forth with that zeal. one, I hope I make it to my 90s, and two, I certainly hope I make it to my 90s with that kind of attitude. All right, I had 10 spiritual principles. I'm going to only concentrate on one of Charles, which I think is so important. Charles really stressed the importance of our spiritual work, thought. Almost like going back to Laura Carney and that bucket, her father's bucket list. On Charles's bucket list would be getting rid of error thoughts. What are the error thoughts? Scarcity, lack. Oh, I'm too old, or I'm too ugly, or I'm too this, or I'm too that, or I was born under a bad sign, or nobody ever gave me a love potion number 9, or whatever. All that garbage, all that, getting rid of that garbage. And Charles thought that it was so important to deal with our error thoughts. Charles a lot of times talked about sort of, and again, it's a model. Let's take it metaphysically, not literally. Charles talked about a sort of almost like a Freud, talking about a 3-stage type of model of the psyche. There's the ego. And Charles's view about the ego was, as it were, in a car, you want an ego in your car. You just don't want it in the driver's seat. You just don't want it in that the ego's there for a function. But the problem is that too many of us think that all there is the ego, and that's it. And there's nothing beyond. There's really nothing. There's nothing beyond the ego. Next, Charles talked about a superconscious mind, divine mind. It's that part of our psyche which is able to connect with divine mind, able to go beyond this material world. I'm so delighted. Pamela Smith is going to be teaching some more about it. We're calling it Angels 102 as opposed to Angels 101. But getting into contact with that divine mind, divine idea, that angelic realm, something which is beyond that everyday material world. And he thought that was really important. The third point that he talked about a lot of times was the subconscious. And the way Charles saw the subconscious, he thought it was sort of like the basement of the structure. And, like a basement. So, here are your old lamps, or what should I do with them? Put them in the basement. So you just put stuff in, clutter and junk, and you put stuff in the basement. He said the irony is that the subconscious, this basement, was created to hold divine ideas. Was created to hold divine ideas. And the trouble is, a lot of us don't put divine ideas in our basement. We put garbage, error thoughts, the slings and the arrows into the basement. And the problem with that is that when trouble happens, when we hit a pothole in life, when the stab in the back, the company going kaput or whatever, when that hits, we open the basement door, we grab for something, and what do we pull out? Old error thoughts. What you're supposed to be pulling out are divine ideas. Let me give you an example. And I even gave it a name. I called it, Rick was my name. I called it the Icky Ricky syndrome. I'm just Icky Ricky. I'm just Icky Ricky, and so, the love relationship goes south, she leaves me, or this happens, or the bank says, or whatever. And I reach in, and what do I pull out? I just pull out Icky Ricky. See, that just confirms it. True story. When I was in Tulsa, and I have her, this was pastoral counseling, and I have her permission to tell this story. Let's call her Patty. And Patty is roughly my age. And back in the day, and I'm sure a lot of you here remember that, when you went to birthday parties, you wore good. Yeah, I'm seeing head shake. You wore good dress. My mother had a little tie. You had to wear the tie and all that. You really got dressed up for birthday parties. And I look at Therese, what she's wearing going to birthday parties, and I think, oh my God, my mother, no. But the times have changed. But anyway, that's the way it was. So Patty is a little girl, She gets invited to a birthday party. Let's say it's Samantha's birthday party. It's on September 4th. September 4th, she's all dressed up in her room party with a present. She knocks on the door. Well, I'm here for Samantha's birthday party. Samantha's birthday party. This is September. Samantha was born in March. Somebody had practical, nasty, little girl dressed up for a birthday party with a This happened not once, happened not twice, it happened 3 times. And so when Patty now, many years later, when the slings and the arrows hit, what happens? She opens the basement door, reaches in, and up comes that little girl, cruelly invited to a birthday party which doesn't exist. And it's dealing with that. Instead, to be opening the door and to be pulling out of the basement, I am a child of God, and therefore do not inherit sickness or fear. I am one with the one. I am born blessed and remain blessed. Those kind of idea, pulling that up. And Charles Fillmore would point and say, this is a lot of times how Jesus did it. I mean, he filled his basement with divine ideas, with divine images. And so there's the 5,000. And, they're hungry, feed the 5,000. And they come to him and they give him, two loaves of bread and a little, slimy fishes. And, most of us would open the basement door, pull up, and what we would say is, what the heck do you expect me to do with this? Jesus was able to open up the door and pull out something else and realize that connection with the divine. And he was able to say that Jewish blessings, bracha, he was able to bless and to multiply it. And again, I don't care if you take this story literally or metaphysically. It's a powerful story. Now the question is, how do we then clear out our basement of this old garbage? First off, Charles would say it's one, admitting that you have all this old garbage in the basement and it needs cleaning up. 2, it's admitting to a higher power, saying, my ego can't do the job. I need help. I need help. And when we honestly do that, Charles believed that help is on the way. Help rushes in to help us to clean out that basement. Charles, direct quote from Charles, all causes are essentially mental, and whoever comes into daily contact with a higher order of thinking must take on some of it. So how do you do it? You don't, I'm just going to go down to that basement all by myself, my ego and I, and we're going to clean. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way. When we can open up and say we need help, and surround ourselves with that, I'm pretty loosey-goosey about a lot of things, but the one thing which I am not loosey-goosey about, and I can be, pardon my French, a hard ass on, is having a daily discipline in your life which surrounds you with these principles, because you're going to hit potholes. You're going to hit potholes. And if you're not doing this, you're going to open the basement door, and what's going to come out is Icky Ricky, or I'm the little girl who was invited to the party that didn't exist. But when you start doing this, when, as Charles says, comes into daily contact with a higher order of thinking, it rubs off on you. It rubs off on you. And then you're in a situation, and when you're actually going through the situation, you're not even thinking about it, but maybe 5 minutes or a half hour or a day later, you think, wow, that situation would have driven me Looney Tunes 2 years ago, and I got through it sanely. Or people will come to you and say, my God, if I had seen you in that situation 5 years ago, you would have been a fruitcake. You got through it. You showed serenity in the face of calamity. How did you do it? Then you start going back. I love this. The book I read one time about tennis said, if you're up against somebody and they're really beating you all that, walk up to them and say, when you're switching courts, say to them, God, you are really doing particularly well today. What's different about your game today as opposed to last week? Then they start thinking about it, and that just totally destroys so now you can so a lot of times it's not going to be that conscious thinking of it. You get in this rhythm of this stuff, and things start just to flow. Things start just to flow. Charles also said, there are opportunities everywhere, just as there always have been. There are opportunities everywhere. And Charles also said, be still and turn within to that great source. Be still and turn within to that great source. And when we do that, we find that, wow, there truly is a power beyond our wildest dreams that can fulfill our bucket list, that can take us where we want to go. And that when we start to find that when we open the door and when the slings and the arrows hit and we start opening the door, we're pulling out something besides Icky Ricky, or we're pulling out something besides Patty and I was invited to a birthday party that didn't exist. And that's beautiful. That truly, honestly, truly is beautiful. When we lived in Unity Village, we were renting. It was a nice house on it was like on an acre and a half of property in Unity Village, and you couldn't tell where it stopped and the forest began and all that. And the rent they were charging us, it was. You haven't seen rents that low since, Howard Cosell was getting his toupee pulled off by Muhammad Ali. I mean, it was, and our next door neighbor would have been Charles Fillmore. And the cottage he lived in, I got to tell you, I see some, quote, spiritual leaders, the houses they live in nowadays, and they strike me as mega mansions, You look at Charles Fillmore's, all you have to do is look at that it was a nice cottage, but it was a cottage. Charles, honestly, truly, and Myrtle, I think, really were the real deal. And we are so blessed to have had them as the co-founders of this movement. And I think that, going back and understanding and reading what they wrote about and things like that is so important. But the other thing, which I think both of them were very eclectic, forward thinkers. The last thing in the world they would want us is somehow to be locked in a time frame of what it was in the 1930s or the 1920s. They were very eclectic and very progressive. They were so interested in Eastern religion at a time when it was very difficult to get good translations of Eastern religion. So let me end on a wonderful story. Charles was teaching a class, and he asked one of the students about some principle, and the kid says, he opens up the book and he says, well, Charles Fillmore on page 95 wrote. Charles said, I could care less what Charles Fillmore thinks about it. What do you think about it? What has worked in your life? And that is so, that is so powerful and I think so positive. And so, happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. And I do feel blessed that we did have Charles and Myrtle Fillmore as the founders of this movement. And I'm so grateful that it's called Unity. Thank you and God bless.
So, I've had so, am I there? Yeah? Yeah.
You're on.
Here we go. So I've had some requests to play my violin recently, so I'm accommodating those requests. And as we go into this meditation, let's think of those fathers and those father figures in our lives and bless the good times. And one of the things that that Charles Fillmore was so good at, and he spent, I believe, 2 hours an evening giving up ties to the negativity of the day and of the past. So if you have any negative experiences with those male figures in your life, let's use this time to release that as well. So think of the good times and release the bad ones.
Let's take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let's take another deep breath in and slowly let it out. Let's close our eyes if we feel comfortable doing so. I'd ask you a moment to think about your metaphysical basement. Is there an error thought in there which you would like to let go, to be released from? It may be too much work for just your ego to do it, but there is so much more here than your ego to help you do it. As you feel that connection with Spirit, with positive role models and mentors, with that peace and that joy, as we gladly go into the silence. Dear Spirit, thank you for the nurturing parents in our lives, for role models, for mentors, and for a power greater than ourselves to confuse with us and is already fused with us, to clean out that basement. And for this and so much more, we say thank you and amen and amen.
The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. And all is well.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Well, now we come to that time of tithes, gifts, and we are so incredibly blessed. I mean, we not only came through the pandemic, but came through it, I think, very well. The numbers at Unity in the Seven Hills financial, I don't want to make it sound like we're out of the woodwork or out of the woods, but I mean, it's been small but mighty, and we're so grateful that I think we face some wonderful positive opportunities to really get that unity message out to the Lynchburg world and beyond. Why don't we say that affirmation of abundance together? Unity in the Seven Hills is abundantly blessed. Creative people are drawn to us. Divine ideas flow through us. Financial resources bless us. And we accomplish mighty works together. We do. And with that abundance, this community, even during the pandemic, remained a tithing community of giving. We support so many Unity institutions such as Silent Unity, Unity Worldwide Ministries, and in the local community, we just gave a wonderful check to Humankind because of you folks. My God, the new kiosk with a refrigerator out front is due to our partnership with Food Not Bombs, but also the beautiful kiosk is due to the volunteers from the community and quite frankly also your support. There are many ways to give for folks online through Zelle, which I find Zelle works. I'm not paid by Zelle, so no, it's not an infomercial, but I do find Zelle works very well. Check, cash, PayPal, their giving fund. When paying by PayPal, we suggest that you either click the link on our website at unityinthesevenhills.org, that's all one word, or if YouTube, click the link below so that we get the whole amount. I know many of you, you don't give every week, some give monthly or whatever. Doesn't matter. Come on up. Your positive vibes really mean an awful lot. Then please stay by the Unity candle. And then lastly, the affirmations. Take an affirmation. It's really, you'll find that a lot of times those affirmations really are the positive word or the kick in the pants that you really do need. And now we come to my favorite song of the whole shebang. Here we go, Something Wonderful.
Little Harold Payne for you. Here we go. Something
Wonderful. Something wonderful
is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it
so
in my
good to
body.
see you.
I can feel it in my soul. I can feel it in my heart.
Yeah, won't let go, no, won't let go. All is love inside. We can
Stand inside out, yes we can. Something wonderful. Something wonderful So, let's bless these gifts together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. United in mind, body, and spirit, I dedicate these gifts as they grow to bless our community, our neighborhood, and our world. So thank you for joining us today. For a schedule of our events and classes, go to unityinthesevenhills.org. Copies of the calendar and newsletter are in the back also. Here's what's happening soon. Part of our mission statement is dedication to education. In that light, U7H offers weekly yoga and meditation experiences and exciting classes. Here's some of the classes going on right now and some to mark on your calendars. One-to-Oneness looks deeply into world beliefs, specifically about oneness and the experience of oneness. They are now studying the Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita. One-to-Oneness meets Thursdays at 7. It's a hybrid class, so you can be in person or on Zoom. Angels 102, led by Pamela Smith, continues our study of an experience with angels. It will be held for 3 Wednesdays at 1 p.m. starting July the 12th. So July 12th. Class will be in the Unity in the Seven Hills Sanctuary right here and on Zoom. If interested, sign up via the sign-up sheet or email unityinthesevenhills@gmail.com. Put Angels 102 in the subject line and then we'll know what you're talking about. Metaphysical interpretation, led by Reverend Rick, will explore how Unity teachers have done metaphysical interpretation of the Bible and other writings. Students are encouraged to do their own metaphysical interpretations of writings, films, songs, etc. The class will meet for 5 Wednesdays at 1 p.m. starting after the other one at the Angels, so August the 2nd. It can be attended in person or at U7H or on Zoom. If interested, see the sign-up sheet or email unityinthesevenhills.org. unityinthesevenhills@gmail.com. Put metaphysical interpretation in the subject line so that we know what you're talking about. Your prayer chaplain today is Sally. For all your prayer needs. If you're watching at home, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hey England, and click that bell icon for notifications. It's the easiest way to access our live streams. And for those here in person, don't forget to join us for coffee and cakes downstairs right after this. I don't have the chords. Children. What do you got?
On?
Yes.
I am. Today we made popsicles for our father figures in our life. It says, Papa, you are the coolest, or Dad, or whatever the children chose. Yeah,
Cool.
popsicles.
Cool, that's nice.
Happy Father's Day.
And so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there and all those folks who are acting as the male role model, the role models in the lives of all of us and all of the children. So let's finish with the peace song, and we're going to do the version with the chords. I mean with the backing track. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, united all are we. Yes, we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this the moment now. With every step I take, yes, this is my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace Thank you, everybody. See you downstairs.